Go.
We're good to go.
We're good to go. Good morning, everyone. It being the hour of 11 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting today. My name is Don Popple, and I'm your chairman today. I'm assisted by Danielle Hicks, who is in charge of all the technical parts of this. And if she thinks you're talking too long, she may press the mute button on you. And Jeff Isles is here as well, who is our secretary treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment. This Committee of Adjustment meeting is now called to order, and those in attendance at this meeting will be live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Please note the recording will be linked to the municipal website following the meeting. Our committee today consists of Alderman Walter McKechnie, Mr. David Bishop, Mr. Gerald Walker, and I guess that's everybody who's here. This is a public hearing to hear 4 applications for a minor variance municipality zoning bylaw. It's the committee's responsibility to consider all information received to date regarding the requested variances and to hear and consider any comments or questions provided by these applications. Any variances granted by the committee must be for tests, which are very clearly defined in the Planning Act. The requested variance must be A, minor in nature, B, desirable for the proper development of the land, C, comply with the general intent of the official plan, and comply with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. Please note that if anyone wishes to be notified of any decisions, please make a request in writing to the municipality. Are there any committee members who wish to declare either a pecuniary or a conflict of interest before we carry on too far? Raise your hand if you don't. 1, 2, Mr. McKechnie, 3. So we're good to go. This meeting and future Committee of Adjustment meetings will be hosted by electronic participation format. Any oral or written submissions received in advance of the meeting will be verbally read aloud at the time the application is considered. All persons who have pre-registered will have an opportunity to present or ask questions about the proposals. Please direct all your questions and comments to the chair. We just have to, before we deal with the cases that are before us, I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes from March the 10th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Bishop, second by Mr. McKechnie. Here you go, Jeff.
Jerry, do you have a question?
Nope, I'm just agreeing with the motion.
So Clinton, are you live here somewhere?
I will pull him forward.
For the first application we're dealing with is a returning file. It's the second time is her third time it's returned. It's the Mendoza file, and our agent Clinton Duchel. Maybe Clinton, you could just highlight the changes that you have very courteously agreed to, and we'll carry on from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I shall. Good morning, committee members. As you know, from our last meeting, we had some discussions about the fact that we needed to reduce the height within 10 meters of the water setback. And there was a requirement asked by the committee to ensure that the area within that 10-meter setback did not exceed the boathouse construction, as well as the existing cottage that was there on the property. So we have gone back and revised the drawings and revised the site plan again, so that the area of the construction will be within the confines of the same area that was discussed for the boathouse and the existing cottage within a 10-meter setback. We've also reduced the height down to a single story to bring it down to the optimal level of not exceeding the height of the existing cottage within 10 meters of the setback. and had to move the cottage back over to where we had discussed in the original plan to allow for all these things to be considered, which means that obviously the shrubs and concerns that were on the east side of the property may be altered slightly. But I do believe from my conversations with the planning department, there will be an EIS that's required to make sure that we maintain the shoreline and vegetation to the best of our ability through the construction process. So with all that in mind, committee members, hopefully we've met all the criteria that you are looking for to be able to pass this, and that you see that this is minor in nature, it's desirable for the property, and that it meets both the zoning intention as well as the plan, the official plan's intention.
Are there any questions from any committee members with respect to Clinton's request? We've all been, Mr. Walker?
I just want to make a comment. Thanking the applicant. He's complied and been very helpful in the whole process, and hopefully we're at a point that you can proceed. Thank you for that.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. I know that this has been several months in the making, and I appreciate all of your comments back so that we could get to this point. And hopefully today is the day that I can go back and give the good news to the client.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on this application, I've gone through it again, as all of us have, and looked at the comments from the neighbors that have been circulated to and their concerns. I can go through them each individually, but I think that most of those concerns, in fact, all of them have been addressed in regard to the changes made by the applicant, and that the concerns are getting it as far back from the water as possible and protecting trees, making sure that the parking is actually off the limits of Pike Lane and not to interfere with the public laneway that is there. The concept of whether or not it's minor, it is minor when you look at the character of the use that is being proposed by the applicant's new drawings. We cannot deny that this lot can have a use for which it is zoned. It is a very small or undersized lot, but you cannot put such constraints that denies its total use. The client, I think, has met the requirements that we have set forth in our concerns, and our committee people have set up conditions with respect of the approval of it that seems to address as best as possible the concerns that have been expressed by the neighbors. The conditions are set forth as items 1 to 12, and the applicant consents to them. I would suggest that in that regard, that this committee proceed to approve of this application on that change basis, and I would so move.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ready for the question? You got the information? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to update the resolution based on the recent submission. Okay, just to clarify, so we'll have to do the conversion later on that one. And for you.
For resolutions that we have to deal with we need the committee's decision with respect to file D13 MV 2020-14. First is to deny the height that was originally requested, which was never turned down. So it's the variance to the provision of section 3-19 to permit an increase to the structure height of 5.5 meters or 18 feet for a main dwelling within 10 meters of high water mark for a total structure height, as opposed to the legal non-complying structure height of 3.7 meters. It's denied. hold your hands up, please. Alder? Okay. So number 2 is a variance provision of section 3.19, permit an increase in the area of encroachment of 11.5 square meters for a main dwelling within 10 meters of the high water mark for a total of 33 square meters, as opposed to the legal non-complying of 21.89 or 235.6 square feet. Granted, please indicate your acceptance. Yep, Mr. Keckman, it's granted. Decrease provision is section 5.2 to permit a dwelling to have a minimum interior lot line setback of 2.9 meters or 9.5 feet as opposed to required minimum of 4.5 meters or 14.76 feet. Granted, please indicate your support. And an increased provision of section 5.2 to permit a lot within the WR4L zone to have a dwelling unit area of 20% as opposed to the permitted 17%. Granted, please indicate your acceptance. I would also like to offer my thanks to Clinton for prevailing with us. This was a difficult case to deal with, particularly when there's 5 feet of snow on the ground, but we've appreciated your cooperation and hopefully things will carry on for you. Thank you very much. Second case we're dealing with is MP D13 MV 2021-005 Burke and Bain on 1752 Curry Road. What's Mr. Burke's first name?
Matt.
Matt. Are you there, Matt? You on the phone?
I am.
Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Quick synopsis on what your program is and some of the history of it, and we'll carry on with some questions and move ahead.
So we just recently purchased the property last October. We were kind of aware of some issues with the garage being encroaching on the lot line setback. We were contacted by the municipality and asked to proceed with either a minor variance or move the garage in. We elected to go ahead with a minor variance. So there was some history between the two neighbors, the previous occupants of our property and the closest neighbor. And I think that that neighbor is now willing to overlook the setback issues and not willing to protest any further. But we're hopeful anyways that our minor variance gets granted and I don't have to move the garage. And there's also an accessory building, a third accessory building as part of the minor variance application. So there's a boathouse at the water, and there are 2 other garages, detached garages from the principal dwelling. So we would also like that to be, I don't know how you would classify it, but
Okay.
we want to keep it boathouse anyways.
I just need to interrupt you for a second, Matt. Have we had any communication from any of the neighbors or anything on this particular?
Have I?
Well, we can answer that, Matt. Thanks. Actually, Danielle's just going to read out the comment for us.
So we did receive an email from Kathy and Larry Longmore, who is the adjacent neighbor. The comment says, "Good morning. In review of the attached Committee of Adjustment agenda for today's meeting, they would be agreeable to the 5 conditions as listed if the committee decides to grant the variance."
Fair enough. Anything else, Jeff?
If anything, through your chair, if you'd like us to read out the conditions and then everybody can talk about them, we can do that as well. But that's about it from us.
Okay, well, let's see where everybody stands. Does anybody else have any other questions of Mr. Bishop?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just requesting here in regard to the measurements that is showing as 1.38 meters at the backside setback and 0.48 meters on the front side setback. Whose measurements are they, and are they perfectly accurate?
Can you comment on that, Matt?
That was a survey completed, I believe, by the neighbor and submitted to the township.
Jeffrey?
But I'm pretty sure there is a formal document indicating the official measurements. Is there not, Jeff? I'm pretty sure there was a survey.
Yes, and if I can
Yeah.
comment on that. Previously, the applicant mentioned that there was some history with the neighbors. The previous owner of the subject lands and the neighbor did have a dispute over the subject lot line that's subject to the setback. So, and that dispute was ultimately settled. And I believe the neighbor's survey was deemed correct. So that is, if that's where that measurement is coming from, it would be deemed correct.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Bishop?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does Mr. Burke know whether or not his deed states that the township road runs through the parcel?
Can you comment on that, Matt?
I'm not too sure.
Would he have had some discussion of that roadway leading through his property with his solicitor when he bought it?
Some discussion. What? So are you wondering if I'm aware of the deeded access?
Well, there's two sides to it. Yes, it would
Okay.
be appreciated that you confirm to the township, to this committee, that you are aware that a township road does go through the property.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
sorry. Yes, I am.
But
I'm aware.
the other question is whether or not your deed actually confirms that. but
I
you
can't say.
You can't
I
say.
can't say for sure. No. I'm sure it would. I'm sure our solicitor would have documented that and made it formal.
Any other questions? Have you got the paperwork on this one? Okay, we'll deal with the question. It's moved and seconded that the commission's decision with respect to file D13 MV 2021-005 be recorded as follows. Decrease provision section 5.2 to prevent a private garage of a minimum interior lot line setback of 0.48 meters or 1.57 feet as opposed to required minimum of 1 meter or 3.28 feet. Is granted. Please indicate your support with your hand. Granted. Carried. Variance provision of section 5.2 to permit a third accessory building to have an area of 23 square meters or 240 square feet as opposed to the required 10 meters or 108 square feet. Granted. Please indicate your hand. Carried. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
There is a waiting period for all of this, Matt,
Okay.
20 days. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bishop?
I just have, we are granting these based on the conditions that are recommended by our staff. Is that fair, Mr. Chair?
Jeff's going to read them out.
Well, then when he reads them out, I would like to comment on the conditions, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll do that.
Sure, thank you. So condition number 1 states that these variances apply. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm reading the right one. Apply to a seasonal dwelling, a private garage, as shown generally on a property sketch dated January 29th, 2021. Any encroachment beyond these variances require further minor variance. Condition number 2, Prior to the work order being closed, the applicant must supply confirmation from an Ontario land surveyor that the private garage complies with the interior side lot line setback. Condition number 3, prior to the work order being closed, the applicant agrees to implement a fence or vegetation buffer along the interior side lot line abutting the garage to screen said garage from the neighboring property. Condition number 4, prior to the work order being closed, the wall adjacent to the interior side lot line, and that's the wall of the garage, is to have no windows, no doors or opening. There is a garage door there now, and that garage door is to be removed or enclosed. And the last condition states that prior to the work order being closed, the drainage, including eaves, gutters, and downspouts for the garage are to be directed onto and towards the applicant's property.
Mr. Comment, Mr. Bishop?
Yes, I would request that Jeff consider on item number 2 that we add the following words to the sentence after the word setback: as granted, just adding the words as granted. Then in regard to item number 3, we're back to fencing, Mr. Chairman. And if you put in any fencing there, it's so tight to the building, it would be almost impossible to create a fence there and be able to maintain it on the Burke side. And in addition, as we had in a previous application, this involves the Line Fences Act. So I'm concerned about imposing a condition as to fencing. Other than that, you would just do the vegetation, I would expect. That's the second one. And then on item number 5, that the drainage be directed not towards the applicant's property, but onto the applicant's property.
Okay,
Sorry, I missed that last one. I apologize. So that the drainage be directed onto the applicant's property, is that what you said?
Yes,
Right now it's onto and toward the applicant's property. You just want it to say onto.
towards and onto.
Yep. Are all the other committee members and applicants fine with it?
right.
Are you and the other committee members as well, the applicant, fine with those changes?
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Indicate, hold your hand up. Very good. I might have to regress here because we never did read the conditions out for the Mendoza file. Do we have to go back and do that?
No, we
Not
don't.
necessary.
We don't have to go back to
Okay.
decisions, but maybe and it's been agreed to.
Okay. This thing here is all set. The next is the Hill file, 1074 Tippy's Trail, Township of Dysart. Are these people live here?
I'm just gonna bring them in. Thank you, Matt, for joining.
Thank you.
Got her in here?
Yep,
There
I'm
she is
just
right there.
asking them to mute.
Kenneth and Francis Hill, welcome to Halifax. Could you just spend a couple of minutes and give us a quick synopsis of what your program is, what you're suggesting you need some help with on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
Doesn't matter to me.
all right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, staff. We purchased a vacant lot, this vacant lot, about 18 years ago. And over the years, we built a modest sized cottage, and then added a sleeping cabin and a shed, and an addition later on, with building permits each time. And at the time and now, all of these structures complied with the zoning bylaws. we both retired, and we're spending more time here, especially in the winter, than we had in the past. And we're feeling the need for a garage. We'd like to have a place to park our cars, and also a workbench area. And anyway, when we looked at doing that, we discovered that although a garage would be permitted in this case, and our existing structures would be permitted, one of the sheds, or the shed, is oversized. Because if we had a garage here, we could only have a shed of, I forget how many, 108 square feet, something like that. So in order to build the garage to remain in compliance with the bylaw, we would have to remove or reduce the size of the shed. One thing that the sketch doesn't indicate is, well, it does indicate down. We're at quite an elevation above the river, and we're completely surrounded by trees. So none of our buildings are visible to any of the neighboring properties. And so we feel that it certainly improves the use of the property in compliance with the bylaw if we did add a garage, and complies with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan, if we keep the shed rather than having to remove it. So it's from our point of view, it's a very minor thing and sort of a technical issue, but we want to make sure we stay on side. And of course, if we applied for a building permit for a garage, we would be told that we've got a problem. So hence the application, and we hope the materials we've supplied are helpful to you, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
The picture show two plastic sheds adjacent to the house and near the water. Is it true that you've agreed to remove them?
Yes.
Plastic sheds? Yes.
Yes. One of the conditions then, Jeff?
Correct.
Any questions from any of the committee members?
No.
Bishop?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am asking here, I see that their deed or the description of their ownership includes 6 parts on an R plan, and I don't see the whole R plan with us, but on the drawing that's been submitted, there's an indication that the proposed garage is going to be located on the other side of what appears to be a right-of-way going through your lands. But there also seems to be another portion that's cut off that shows another survey going off of that. It's leading off of part 7, between part 7 and part 8. And my drawing says that the proposed garage is going to be located on that area. What is that area, if I may ask?
Yes, there is a trail that leads off from the right of way, and it's marked on the survey. And for the purpose of the application, we were under several feet of snow at the time, so we weren't able to find the exact location of these of the right of way. Right. So the proposed garage that's shown on there is just conceptual. And we don't know exactly where we would be putting the garage, but when the time comes, we'll have to make sure that when we apply for the building permit, we have an exact location and that we will be in compliance with both all the zoning and building requirements, and that it will be in the proper location.
Okay, so that map is not necessarily where you want to build the garage. You won't put it on somebody else's right of way.
No, that's right.
That would not be a good idea.
Any other questions with respect to this application? Got the paperwork for that? Looking for a mover and a seconder on this particular application. Moved by Gerald Walker. Seconded by Walter McKechnie. I'm assuming you're moving in favor
Yes,
application. Be it resolved, the committee's decision with respect to file D13 MV 2021-005 be recorded as follows. A variance provision of section 5.2 to permit a third accessory building to have an area of 20.5 square meters or 216 square feet, as opposed to required 10 square meters or 108 square feet. Granted? Please indicate. Carried. Same thing, Mr. Hill, there is a waiting period. There's an appeal period of 20 days before you can do anything. So I just sit tight and I'm sure everything will be fine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'm just going to submit to Jeff here in regard to the conditions on this application. In item number 3, I would suggest that you change the word lake to water body.
Okay,
Is it a lake?
do you want that changed for this application? You're correct, it is a river.
the river.
You can change that if everybody's agreeable.
Anyone have any problems with that?
no,
Mr. Walker, Mr. McKechnie, no.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much for coming along. Fourth application is Wary on the Harvard Road, agent Melanie Weiglass. And has to deal with a yurt. Good morning, Melanie.
Morning, everyone.
morning.
You'd like to give us a quick synopsis of what you're doing? First of all, I had to find out what a yurt was, but I know now.
Good.
So,
Yeah, so I had been looking for some vacant land to put up a yurt just to have a weekend retreat. And I found this piece of land and talked to people at the township to make sure that the zoning allowed for the yurt to be put up as principal use and all the setbacks. So got all the information and then purchased the land, and then found out afterwards that the setbacks were actually 30 meters from the main road and not 15 meters, which I was under the assumption of. So in order to have any space to put up the yurt, I would need to decrease the setback from the back lot to about 3 to 5 meters to maintain the 30 meters from the road. And because it's just a road allowance that the town owns and no one's using it, I'm hoping that it's just a minor change in the intent of having the setback from the main road.
Mr. McKechnie? You wish to speak? Any questions here?
Looks,
Mr. Bishop?
Yes, Ms. Weiglass, you confirmed that you are aware that you abut an open lot line I see on the one side of your property. Have you considered whether or not you might apply to the township to either acquire the whole of that 66-foot allowance or at least the mid 33 feet of it? That would increase your area size. It's just something that I'm thinking of that would assist you in your ownership as you go along here. I know it's a long procedure to have a road allowance closed and deeded, but have you considered doing this and have you approached the township at all?
I have, yeah. So I have considered it. I have approached the township and I've looked over the procedure and spoke to Tammy actually about how to do that. And so I'm just kind of a little bit, this is a bit of an urgency for me. I was kind of planning to start this project a little bit earlier than this. minor variance on the setback has been a setback for me. So I would look into it further after I kind of get past this. But yes, I have considered it.
Jeff, could you comment on, there are some neighbor concerns, right?
Actually, yeah, and I believe the neighbors would like to speak to the committee, so Danielle can bring them forward one at a time, and then they can have their chance.
We're going to hear from a
speak.
couple of your neighbors.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring
Melanie.
in one of the adjacent neighbors. Vander.
This is Jeff.
This is Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Good morning. Hello.
Oh,
Yes, I'm the owner of 4544 Harbor Road. So I sit east of this parcel of land. And one of my concerns was with this variance or the purchase of the road allowance. What are the impacts of the entrance of my driveway?
I'll get Jeff to comment on that. He's checked it out.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Given the location of your driveway, I don't think the location of the proposed building will impact your driveway.
Okay.
I suppose it appears to be well screened in the location of the building. It appears to be the only location that Melanie can build on her property. At a glance, I don't think there would be any impacts unless you have any specific concerns about privacy or that kind of thing. To me, it looks like it's well set back.
Now, I don't know what the purpose or the implication is the property or the yurt going to be used for commercial? Like, will it be renters or is it just for private use?
It's just for private use. It'll only be used by me and my
Okay.
dog.
Okay. And other than that, I don't have any issues. As long as purchasing of the road allowance does not affect the entrance of my driveway. And I know that the hill there is with the road, if you were to put another driveway there or putting an entrance to a driveway to the property, I don't know if that's been taken into consideration with the steepness and the crowning of the hill there. I don't know if that's a problem.
I'll get Jeff to comment on that.
Well, the one thing I wanted to comment on is with regards to the purchase of the road allowance. So given that you're the property owner on the other side of the road allowance, municipal policy says that you will have an opportunity to purchase half of that. And if you don't want half, then the full 66 feet can be offered to the applicant. So
Right.
you will be circulated and you will be given the opportunity to purchase that. With regards to a driveway coming down that road allowance, I don't believe that's where the applicant wants their driveway. Having said that, it is a municipal road allowance. If someone wanted to put a driveway on it, they could make that request to council and then council can make their decision.
Okay. Yeah.
You
All right.
okay?
Okay. That's those are my concerns. Yep. We just purchased the property November October the 28th. So we're new there too.
Oh, well, we missed the opening party, so.
Well,
Any
yeah.
other questions with respect to this application?
We do
No.
have one more neighbor.
Pardon?
We have one more neighbor.
Well, we've got another neighbor, Jeff, so we're gonna cut you loose.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll be bringing forward Edward and Lillian. They are here to speak.
You got them, Jeff?
Yeah, so the next one's. So Danielle's gonna bring that forward.
Lillian? Welcome to the meeting. Would you bring us up to date on what your questions are and with respect to this application?
Yes,
We are, my brother Ed here, Edward, and I are executors of the estate of Sal Nacello, Salvador Nacello. And he passed away on December 31st, 2020. And and we represent the land immediately, two pieces of land actually. One immediately adjacent to, as I understand it, to where the yurt would be. And the other piece of land is opposite on the other side of the road. So what my original, seeing as we were only really researching this as of very recently, because it just came into our hands very recently. Our understanding was that the yurt was going to be obstructing the request here rather was going to be obstructing a driveway access to one of the pieces with what we would call the recreational portion of the land. And but it now turns out, after discussion with Danielle this morning, that that's not quite the case as I originally understood it. So anyway, it seems that the yurt is opposite or facing the entrance to one portion of the land, which is on the west side of the highway. The yurt is planned for the east side of the highway. We own another piece of land, which, as I understand it, is directly adjacent on the to the south of this where the yurt is planned. And we're at 4512 Harborne Road, where the dwelling is. The dwelling is on, the house is on the north side of the highway, and our recreational property, we have a waterfront on the south side. No, pardon me, I'm going to correct the directions. The house is on the east side of the highway. I'll get this yet. And the recreational property or waterfront is on the west side of the highway. We're sort of, as I understand it, we're flanking this where this yurt is located on two sides. So my concern, after speaking with Danielle this morning, the concern is what the clearance will be from our access point at 4512 Harborne Road, and where the request is for the side setback. I wanted to ensure that there was sufficient land clearance there. That would be primary. The other part of it is I wanted to ensure that there wasn't an obstruction to the access road to the waterfront property, which is on across the road on the west side of Harborne Road.
Okay, I'll get.
Does that make sense?
Well, he's been steadily making notes here, so I'm sure it makes sense to him. So we'll let him respond to your question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I'll do my best to address those concerns. From my understanding of your comments, your driveway is located on the original road allowance to the south of the subject lands. So, and you're wondering how far that yurt will be from the driveway. Well, the bylaw requires a 13.5 meter setback from that lot line. And as per the site plan submitted by the applicant, it's showing that it'll have at least a 15 meter setback from that lot line. So at minimum, from the edge of the property line, not necessarily even from the edge of the driveway, we're looking at 15 meters, roughly 50 feet, 45 feet at minimum.
Yes. So I understand that there's a portion there that doesn't, as it shows on the drawing here, that doesn't allow for any structures to be built there. So it's a, if you will, a green area. And then there's a request for more or less of 5 meters beyond that to allow for the side lot expansion. So there's a little more room here than I originally anticipated in terms of the distance from the our access driveway for 4512 Harborne Road. I think that the only other point that came up that I can, as I recall this morning in talking with Danielle, was where will the access point or the driveway, if you will, to the yurt be located?
You know, Jeff?
I can answer that. I have been in discussion with Melanie about this, and I believe the intention for access is to come off of your existing driveway using the municipal road allowance and then accessing the property from the south side.
Okay, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind repeating that, say that again, if you don't mind.
So the driveway that leads into your property follows a municipal road allowance. That permission was given, I believe, in 1993 to the property owner at that time to use the municipal road allowance for access to their property. So my understanding in discussions with Melanie is that the driveway is going to come from that driveway, from our road allowance, from the south side of her property in towards the yard.
It'll come from that road allowance. This is not too clear to me. I don't understand. We have a clear access point to the land from 4512, and I don't see anywhere near there where there could be a driveway access. It might be a bit of an area to the north, but I can't see it being anywhere near the near our 4512 access point driveway.
Sorry, allow me to clarify, and through your chair, that it will use that same access to your property. Sorry, I don't have the address number in front of me. It will leave the county road in the exact same location. And that, where your driveway leaves the county road, that is a municipal road allowance, and it is a public highway, and it will leave in the exact same location. So that will become a shared driveway at that portion until the point where Melody north towards her property to the yard.
How much distance are we looking at from the roadway to the, that we're talking about for a possible access to the yurt? How much, you're telling me that a portion of this driveway into 4512 belongs to the county, so I can understand that. That's going to be the portion that's closest to the roadway. I don't know how large that is. I wouldn't mind knowing that. And what I understand you to tell me is it's possible for there to be a driveway off that portion that belongs to the municipality or goes with the road. I wouldn't mind some clarification on this aspect of it.
I can.
Melanie, would you wish to speak to
Yeah,
that?
it's probably about like just roughly about 30 to 40 meters. Would you say that, Jeff? Like just based on, it's not very far up. It's about 100 feet.
According to the site
From
plan,
Harborne Road.
yeah, according to the site plan, the depth of the property in that location is just over 50 meters. So it's going to be under 50 meters.
Are you saying that the bottom part of that driveway is to the extent of 50 meters, which to me is 150 feet in my language? Are you saying that that portion of that driveway does not belong with our land, is not part of our land, and it's not private? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
This is
And you can contact me afterwards and I can provide you a copy with the waiver that was signed by the previous owner. And it was for permission to use the municipal road allowance for the driveway. And one of the clauses in that does say that any member of the general public still has the right to use that road allowance. So it
Of
wasn't
150 feet into from the roadway, or,
just the road allowance in general. So Melanie will have to ensure she stays on that road allowance. She will not veer off onto any private property. But as long as your driveway or your existing driveway is on the road allowance, that is still open to the public, and the applicant can use that for their driveway purpose.
I guess that part is the part I wasn't familiar with. So I didn't realize that there was a portion of that driveway which actually did not belong to the, to that extent of 150 feet. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Contact me afterwards. I'm happy to show you. We can show you on some imagery, kind of where that driveway is located in relation to your property as well as the road allowance.
Okay. Okay. I wonder if Danielle, if there's anything that I may have missed following my discussion with Danielle this morning that you want to point out to me to this discussion.
Nope, that seems like everything we talked about this morning was your concerns with the driveway as well as just the location of the yurt in regards to the two properties.
Right. And yes, and pretty specifically too, my understanding is with the yurt being back from the roadway approximately 100, what I would call 100 feet, pardon me, that would, I want to ensure there's no obstruction to the other driveway access to the waterfront lot. That's why I'm questioning all the access point things matters. So that doesn't seem to be an interference here as far as I can tell. But what you're telling me now about this 150 feet, this access point from the driveway into 4512 Harbor Road, that I wouldn't mind further information on.
Do you want to talk to Jeff after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can set that up.
Okay.
Okay. We're ready for any other questions from members with respect to the application? Mr. McKechnie, you're okay? Mr. Bishop, would someone make a motion?
Move.
So move.
There's the file 2 resolution.
Moved by Gerald Walker. And seconded by Walter McKechnie. I'm assuming you're moving in favor of the motion. Is that what you're doing, Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Being resolved, the committee's decision with respect to file D13 MV 2021-009 be recorded as follows. A decrease of section 9.2 to permit a private cabin yurt to have an exterior side lot line setback of 3 meters or 9.84 feet as opposed to permitted 13.5 meters or 44.3 feet. If granted, please indicate you're carried. And then Lillian, if you want to just contact Jeff after the meeting, I'm sure he'll go through that with a little more detail for you.
Okay.
There is an appeal period of 20 days with respect to the decision, so sure this is not going to get land there tomorrow. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That completes the course of the business today. Would someone move we adjourn? Moved by Mr. Walker. Mr. Gerald Walker. Seconded by Mr. Bishop.
Sure. Don't need a seconder on a motion to adjourn, but we'll second it anyway.
Well, it says on this thing that I got, the sheet says I gotta get it, so I don't wanna make any bad names here. To be as a result, the meeting be now adjourned at 11:55. Thank you very much for your attention.